consent. Hello, welcome everyone. For those of you that don't know me, whose first time is this in one of my workshops? Wow, quite a few. It's always 50-50. I find that quite interesting. Hello, you.
Hello, are we full?
We are. I've got any what?
This workshop is now full. Signs.
I
know where they are. I don't get it. They're not in the front desk box. They're not there now. So you don't know, do you?
We're all really nice to each other. We have good working relationships here. So if you don't know me, my name's Deb. I've got the farcical title of the Kinkshrink on FetLife, which is a bit of a joke, but it became quite serious after a while. I do a lot of writing. I run workshops every other Thursday, free of charge. If ever you want to come along, they're on Zoom. They are different to these in that they are subjects that people have asked for. I currently have a list of about 50 to ask for, which is quite trying to get through them. Next Thursday's workshop is on the title Daddy, the history of Daddy, all about Daddy, age play relationships, but especially Daddy and Mummy. So God knows where we're going with that. Might even go from adult nursing to littles to middles to like lots of stuff. Should you have sex with a little? And I don't know where that's going to go. I do roughly, but it depends where you take it because I'm very responsive to my audience, or try to be. But we're covering Daddy. Oh. If I'm lucky, Daddy might cover me.
There's no way you're not going to end up with some sort of euphemism.
But, you know. So it really, really varies as to what we cover. So you're always welcome to those. If you follow me on FetLife, they're advertised, and as I say, they're free of charge and they're 2-hour workshops. Anyone here into psychology? Anyone here a psychologist, psychiatrist, counsellor, psychotherapist, therapist? If you come to any, and this counts as a free CPD certificate, and they're fucking pricey motherfuckers, aren't they? They're normally 65 quid for a little bit of CPD. So just tell me, write to me, and I'll send you a free one as well. And if you've got anything to add to this, now I can't bullshit, which is really annoying. So I'll just say I researched it. It's bollocks. So I get a lot of that, a lot of psychiatrists, psychologists, psychotherapists, counsellors. It's free CPD. So you are welcome to ask me for those. Just let me know afterwards. Or you can grab a number and my email. And the only thing is I have to know to write your CPD certificate is your real name. So if you're uncomfortable with that, clearly that's really different. So that's the only thing I would say. The idea of these is they were started about, I said that earlier, so I wasn't sure. I think it's about 8 years ago now. And the idea was that I said to David, I've known David for about, 30 years. It's Lamb's birthday weekend and it's his birthday as well. I remember years ago, there was a raffle to get him spanked. And the raffle wasn't making enough money, and it was a birthday one in a different venue, and they were 200 quid short. I felt really wealthy that weekend. Chucked in an extra 200 quid. Couldn't even stay for the fucking spanking. I just really wanted it to happen. Because he thought, oh, no one will reach that. That really shows my age, doesn't it? Because I'm sure I wrote a check. So the idea of these is that we would do these, and they would be anything to do with anything you want them to be able to do with. So they would be about psychology, they would be about kink, they would be about mental health, they would be about polyamory, they would be about relationships, they would be about communication, and they would all be about the betterment and sharing from all of us for all of us. That was the idea, and that they would run down to a really small thing and no one would come in anymore. I'm really privileged, thank you, that hasn't happened yet. You know, there's rarely a seat in these workshops. People still come in and it's amazing after 8 years. I just like the sound of my own voice, clearly. But the idea of these is they're anything you want to be, they're a Q&A. The next one after this is very much about consent. We've got a full subject there. I've only got 45 minutes now to do it. The workshop is actually 2 hours that I wrote, so thank fuck I speak fast. And I've got notes, and I want to refer to it because there are things I definitely want to cover. This one is not that. This one is completely dependent upon you. Whatever question you ask, wherever we go, is up to you. And I'll tell you what often happens is nobody asks a question for a little while, so I fucking rattle on about bollocks. And then we get towards the end and everyone's got their fucking hand up, or lots of people are asking questions, or they grab me afterwards. I understand you might have a question you don't want to ask in public. I understand that can be difficult. I mean, if you've got Wi-Fi, you can ask on the Facebook or what on the Facebook page, not the Facebook. That's my mum saying, do it on the line. No, online, mum. Bless her, she died 2 years ago. I can forgive her now. So it's really important that you ask the questions you want to ask. So, without any further ado, it's up to you. What question would you like to ask today? Where would anyone like to start?
I'm polyamorous dating someone who's monogamous.
Good luck. No. I didn't say be nice about anything.
Yeah, so I'm polyamorous. I started seeing someone who was monogamous and sort of started off very casual, understand it, but sort of wanted to have that connection with me, and I was happy to do that. Been through get involved, and they started off from a position of, hey, I'll try it. Some traumatic things happened. They went through a really hard time. Thankfully, not related to me, just in their life in general. And from that, a lot of the insecurities and issues got heightened, and they've become very much less okay with the poly. And so I'm at the point of navigating what things to be better before we assess whether or not it's not working.
Define better.
Happier, not as
Define happier.
Yeah, not just having nice times together rather than the time we spend together just being really deep in stress and stuff. I want to at least feel like we're at a healthy point before I can say, okay, we've given it a healthy go, and then we can sort of take over there. That's how I feel. Yeah, don't know how practical it is or what pitfalls I went through, but that's sort of like what am I getting myself into, Josh?
So this isn't therapy. So I have an opinion, right? And it isn't therapy. This isn't therapeutic, right? I really want to make that clear. What I hear in what you're saying and my interpretation. So I've been a switch and I've been a submissive for 41 years. It's a long time. I was around before the internet was. Back of Forum magazine. Anyone here done something similar yet? Yeah, don't we? Some levels of experience, and some people have been doing it for a year, some people 20. But you can have 5 years experience and have less experience than someone who's been doing it for 20. Time doesn't mean anything. That's one of the things I really want to say, because look, if you've done a lot of stuff, and also you've got a lot of experience in relationships, if you've had a monogamous, single sex, that's it with one person type faithful relationship, you could have had way more sex than somebody who's polyamorous. We make these huge assumptions around these things. I think, if anyone wants to leave, it's really okay. I think poly is trending. I think a lot of people say they're poly when they're not. I think a lot of people are open to poly because they want someone to love them and like them. I think you've got to come into poly quite an okay human being as yourself. If you have a little bit of a crack, I haven't. I've got 4 kids. Right, if you have, what's going to happen in that situation? The jokes will keep coming at me. It's as soon as you add someone else into that mix, that is going to split. It's the same when you think, oh, I know, we're not getting on very well, let's have a baby. Why would you add that level of stress? Well, honestly, adding another partner in is as bad as, if not worse, actually, than having a baby. Because you've got everyone else's shit to navigate and all sorts of things to do. If you have somebody, I know you, so I'm going to say how it is. If you have somebody who's not feeling very good in and of themselves and you want to make them better, good luck with that for a start, because I can't make you better. If you come and pay me, I'm going to help you see things differently, potentially, but you've got to want it, you've got to sign up for it, and you've got to be willing to do the work. You then add into that you want to make it nice and have some happy times. How? How are you going to make it so much better that you can then dump someone? See my point? I think what you've got to be, again, not therapeutic, I think you've got to be honest, direct, and I think you've got to be short, sharp, and kind. And kind isn't always nice. Often we use the word kind, which is saccharine. I don't mean kind. Actually, it's very kind. You've got to be cruel to be kind. Not here, don't be cruel. But actually, the best thing you can do for her is say, I am polyamorous. I was very clear I was. I really understand you're in a bad place. I'm not going to stop who I am or change who I am in order for this relationship to work, because then I won't be okay either. I don't know why we live in an age. Oh fuck! I sound naughty. Right? I don't know why we live in an age where we think it's someone else's responsibility. I'm seeing you. You need to make me okay. We're in a partnership. You need to do good things for me in order to make me okay. It's look. You may or may not like Will Smith, right? But one of the things he did say, which I like, is about their relationship, is that it's not his job to make her happy. It's not her job to make him happy. They might end up doing happy things together. And also this fallacy of happy. What the fuck does it mean? I think human beings are like DNA helixes, which are quite complex to look at. They've got a lot going on around them. They've got this core through the middle slightly when you put it on the side. We've all got this fallacy of we need to be happy and we need to be up here somewhere, like it's a destination. Fuck, that's not real life. I can't be happy feeding my dogs and cats every day. It might give me some pleasure, but it's quite nice. It doesn't make me happy to have an orgasm. I love having an orgasm, that's quite nice, but I'm not like, I'm so happy I had one. I don't know what I mean. So happy is a fallacy. I think what we're looking for, we live in a strange world. We just need contentment. We need okayness somewhere in the middle. Eric Byrne, I'm okay, you're okay. We're looking for okay. And some of that will be really good and some of it really bad. And it's all about the fact that we're emotional all the time so that we manage and we move on. For me, listening to you as a friend and someone who knows you, leave now, do her a favour. It's not fair. So like, I do this every so often. So someone is here with me on a first date. Good luck to them, poor them. Right, so, and that's really hard for somebody, I think, coming here and putting themselves out. And they had a date yesterday and they have a date tonight, right? And off they go, they're going to have a date, they're going to have a nice time. I really hope they have a wonderful time. There's nothing in it. It's not, they don't owe me anything. We don't owe another person anything, especially when we don't know them. But even in a relationship, what we owe is respect. What we owe is care. And care isn't always saying to make someone else okay, because if you make her okay, and that's what she then depends on, she isn't okay. She needs you to be okay. The okayest thing you can do is to walk away cleanly, kindly. Maybe if you know a few of her friends, set it up so that she's got some support and care around her, because you are not going to change for her. How often do you meet someone honestly and think, oh yeah, I'll just change them? They'll just do this and it'll just be okay. Relationships are about compromise. They're not about getting everything you want. It doesn't fucking exist. That's Disney, isn't it? That's wonderful. It just doesn't happen. Who here has got an opinion on what he should do?
No, I will.
So you can ask something else. That was just really bad timing, wasn't it? Go on.
I just wanted to continue with what he said. He said that he wanted to try to get like a healthy shout before deciding when to stop, and you spoke about content. So I was asking, when do you decide? Okay, I have tried enough to adapt the relationship from both sides. It's not working. When do you decide that okay, I have tried enough?
So people on average spend 2 years thinking about leaving a long-term relationship. 2 years. There is no perfect deciding point. You often know way before you act. What do you know? You're just trying to be nice. You're a lovely human being. I know you. I also know that you're a knight. I know that you really care about people. I know that you absolutely will go above and beyond to make someone else okay at what cost. Yes, and that's not always good, is it? Look, there has to be some cost. Nothing is ever fucking 50-50. 50-50 doesn't exist. It's 98-2 sometimes if you're having a really hard time, but the fucking purpose is it swings back. You're never going to get the swing back, literally and metaphorically.
I think at the moment it's like they don't understand it, and that I feel is something I want to. I'd like to see if they have the possibility of understanding it, and if that would, because if I feel like they understand it, and then they're like, okay, I understand how you operate and how sort of my affections work and how I can have affection for multiple people and don't have it reserved to just one person. And if they can understand that, and then they're still like, oh, I think that could work, or I think that couldn't. I think that's more what I'm trying to do, because things I just don't think. Well, I know that they don't understand it, and it's like maybe understanding it might be a sort of more decided. If they understand it, is that why I'm going to know that like, okay, they understand it, they're not okay with it, or they understand it, they're more inclined to kind of giving a compromise a go. Because I feel like after a compromise, it's not been possible at the moment, but I would be looking forward to in the future. And if the compromise isn't possible in the future, then I do know that there isn't really anything.
I also think we go in with optimism bias, with confirmation bias, and many biases that we have. Because why should someone monogamous even want to understand someone with polyamory if it's not what they want? If it's not for them, it's not for them. What we often hope when we tell someone and we want them to see our side, and I'm going to come back a bit more with what you said as well, and I am going to come to you in 1 second. What a lot of us want is closure. It's such an American term. You know, I'm really after some closure. Is there an American here? I'm so sorry. But it's perfectly appropriate. Thank you. I appreciate that. So what we get with closure, which is quite an Americanism, it is. It's not very British. British don't do closure. British do, we're fine. We're just going to walk away. Or we're very passive aggressive. No, you're fine, you fucking cunt. Right, so, but we're different, right? You know, different ways of thinking. I have a Swiss passport, fuck knows what we do, we're all anally retentive. Right, so, but it's interesting because closure doesn't exist. What we really mean by the word closure is I want you to agree with me, see everything that I said and get it from my perspective, and then I'll be okay. Life doesn't work that way. It doesn't. And I think you're after making it nice and closure, and if she understands there's this interesting hope there that somehow, my fear for you is that you have an idea that if she understands it, that somehow there might be some conversion because you like her. And my worry is that the conversion isn't possible. The understanding might be, but also why should she have to? You were going to say something.
So I'm just curious, how long has the relationship been going?
Casually, was it about October? Casually,
So this is
intense stuff. Like slowly became more intense over time without sort of clear definitions of when. It's sort of been a bit more serious for a couple months now.
Because I really like your question, although I'm not sure this is the right forum, because I'm going through a similar problem, except it's 20 years.
It's honestly, this is the forum, this is what we do every month.
Yeah. So my question may take 5 minutes. So.
Yeah. That's why we have therapists. To extend and expand on it.
Like when I started on my journey, the internet didn't exist. Started a relationship, ended up married. Advice is vanilla and kink don't mix. I kind of think that is just an echo of the same thing about poly and monogamy and all of these things. They're all echoes of each other. They're signals. They're not actually the real cause. My gut instinct is if you're struggling this much after such a short period of time, you need to find something that is more resonant with you. That because you will have trouble. Every relationship has troubles, and if it's that hard, you did the wrong thing. I'm 20 years married to a vanilla monogamous person. I don't know what my definition of myself is. I just know there are things missing in my life that I clearly can't get in a monogamous relationship anymore. And how do you fix that? And what's really curious now is exactly your question, except from a different context, is when do you give up? I was always told, sorry, you shut me up the second you think I should shut up, but
Shut up, no, I'm kidding.
I was always told vanilla and kink didn't mix, and for me the metaphor was exactly the same. Although I think everybody who says that is wrong, it's an oversimplification that we see characteristics in kinky people that are missing, tend to be missing in vanilla, that allow the meeting of minds that you have as, I'm assuming, a poly person, where you are less
I'm a kinky person.
And it can be even better. So I would just say this is a gut instinct. I mean, I'm struggling to work out, should I say, married after 20 years, trying to will my wife discover, she's obviously in a lot of pain. She's lost like everything. Her fairy tale doesn't exist. What does she do? What do I do about that? And it's a really impossible question that now sits. That if I could replay my life again, I would do it all different. Not necessarily with a different person, but with a different set of ground rules, right? And the thing is she thinks we shouldn't have got married. I disagree. I think we should have better ground rules.
Or different grounds.
Yes, for sure, but it's all about understanding, communication, everything. So if you're struggling this, it's like, don't try to change somebody, don't try to make a compromise. That doesn't mean as a person she's not the right person, but the way it's started.
It's very hard work.
Yeah.
And your questions are very similar. At what point do we walk away? Well, I think it's about pain. If we're causing a lot of pain to somebody else, it is kinder to walk away. Your wife will heal. She will find somebody else. Unless she decides to die or something like that's very different, very extreme. You know, I do have clients who definitely want to die. Like they really do. And that is an option. We say, yes, it is. But so I don't necessarily mean die as death either. Some people kill themselves off romantically. Some people kill themselves off emotionally. Some people kill themselves off in a way that they don't want to live or be happy. Some of us want to stay in a victim position if we're looking at the drama triangle. Some of us want to stay in different ways.
I assume it's the pain you do to others or they
And to yourself.
Because in my case is the I will change situation. So it's basically when do you accept, well, I don't know if you're going to change or not, but it's late.
It's like
It's late.
it's late. Is it?
When do you say it doesn't matter if at this point you change or not, it's just at this point it's just late.
It's too late. Okay, but if it's too
Sorry,
late,
Spanish.
no, it's okay. If it's too late, it is too late. Like that, we should have walked away maybe 6 months. I think the problem is here. What we have as well is we talk about regret, and Bronnie Ware does a really interesting piece of research in the top 5 regrets of the dying. She was a palliative care nurse, and when you look at what people regret, it's realizing that happiness was a choice. It's realizing that their emotions are their rights and they can work with them, and that they hadn't kept up certain friendships in certain ways, or maybe that they'd worked too much. It's an older piece of research. It's very male-based as far as the men that were dying. I wish I'd worked less, but a lot of the women she was seeing had been housewives because that was that time. We're talking about a very different time. But it's about regret. It's a shitty feeling, regret. And I think it's quite interesting. If you think, I like the 5 5s, how will I feel about this in 5 hours? How will I feel about this in 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years? And if you know you don't want to be married to that person in 5 years, but you do, but you would like them to completely change, you can't make someone change. I can't make someone change, and it's my fucking job. In a way, it's not my job, it is my job. Do you know what I mean? That people come to me and say, hi, heard you're brilliant. Can you just change my life, please? And actually, I wouldn't have a job if I did that, because I've changed them in 3 minutes and off they go. And it's the weirdest relationship to have with somebody. You're going to tell me everything about you, all your pains, all your woes. You're not going to know as much about me, and your life is going to change. And that is hopefully what we want, but you've got to want to do it. I think when we're hurting, we're at that stage of it's really hard to make decisions because we're so worried about what the other person's going to do, think, say, feel, and how they're going to act. And again, I remember years ago, a friend of mine got divorced from his wife. They'd been married for 40 plus years. And she was devastated and broken and really not in a good place. And yet 5, 6 years on, she has met someone and she's actually happier than she ever was. For people who are serial monogamists or polyamorous human beings, what's interesting is often, I don't know why we do this, we go, God, I really like this person. I think I found the next soulmate. And then that doesn't work. You go, they weren't my soulmate, but this one is. This one is my soulmate. Yeah, it is that. And then it's the next one. So that's what feelings do to us. That's what love does to us. Love is this shit drug in our system that fucks your brain up beyond belief. And you do these crazy things. And it helps you invest in this human being. Because actually humans are pretty monogamous, and a lot of what they do is that tradition, is that society, is that culture, or is it this thing called love? Well, it is this thing called love. But then we go, oh, squirrel, there's another love. And then there's another one. And then we might realise something more about ourselves, like, fuck, I'm kinky, or fuck, I'm poly, or, oh my God, I want all these things. But then you've got to be careful, because I was saying to the person I've just met, I've also got to be careful. I'm talking about consent soon, and we often tend to think that polyamorous and kinky people are better at communication. Fuck off. Fuck off. We're so up our own asses about this. We're not. We just think we are. Often we're not. I work with monogamous couples, as I know. How kind of me. I'm being that's sarcasm for anyone who asks, right? Oh, but they're just as fucking good at communication as anyone else. We just happen to think that. So my mum died 2 years ago. My mum and dad have been married since they were 20 odd. My dad's 88. My mum died 2 years ago. She was a few years younger than him. We assume with monogamy, we're going to end up together with everyone a fairy tale. Let me tell you now, one of them dies. You're then alone for how long? 3 years? 5 years?
For me, it's kind of to link up on that. For me, it's like I'm right at the point where I'm trying to find out if I'm like into polyamory and stuff. For me, it's like I currently have a partner, and the sex has been going down because of me, because my sex life right now is low. But then right now I met a person that I either have a crush on or I just want to.
And your sex drive has gone up?
No, actually no.
Okay.
It's just I wouldn't even want to have sex with that person. I would just be interested in like making out and stuff. But because we tried swinging before with 2 separate couples, and on his side it didn't end that good. So he's kind of monogamous. So I don't know really how to bring up the topic of kind of opening up to the smaller level. Or because I don't know if it's just because of the situation right now, because I'm having less sex with my partner.
You do know how. You're doing it now, right? You do know how. The point is you have a fear around doing it. So we're frightened about the outcome, or we're worried we're going to hurt someone, or we're worried we're going to be left. We know how. We know how to sit down. We know how to have a topic and conversation. And the best way to have a conversation isn't actually completely like this. It's slightly on the side, looking over, preferably holding hands. If you hold someone's hand, it's much more difficult to say you're a fucking cunt because you're
Difficult, not impossible.
unless you're kinky, you're like that bullshit. You worthless fucking. Thank you very much, Daddy. But it varies, doesn't it? It varies. So you do know how you're frightened about something. You're frightened about him not being okay with it, or her. I think you said him. So we're scared about something, and that's what stops us. We all know how. It's our fear that stops us, which I totally understand. Or expectations. Expectations are the biggest enemy to any relationship you've got because they're yours. You don't share them. We have them. We live in a world that has quite interesting attachment issues, is very frightened of abandonment for a lot of people. Over, 50% of people have attachment issues. 50% of people are okay attached, whatever the fuck that means. And that's interesting as well, because that's what one in each chance. Poly is really trendy. I think for anyone who's going to try poly, what I'm going to ask you is, what do you think you're going to get from it? What do you hope to get from it? If it's fundamentally you, completely different. If it's something you think, oh no, I think I want to try that, that's very different to this is me and this is what I want. They're different things. What are you hoping to get from it? What's the outcome? What will it mean for you? Because we never truly know when something is done. There's always a little bit of hope, but that's also about our investment bias. That's also about our hope. And that's also about, I spent 20 years in this. I really love and adore this human being, but it doesn't mean we still fancy them. It doesn't mean we want sex with them. It doesn't mean, I think in the Western world, we tend to equate love with romantic and sexual love. Whereas actually, if you look at Greek mythology and history, there are many forms of love. There is friendship. There is long-term love and care, which is what you have for another human being, in a way. You've got history. And that makes a big difference. And it doesn't mean you always like them, especially when you're sort of in the middle of half having arguments and stuff. You're like, oh, complete cunt or twat. Like, we get really vitriolic and quite nasty to people we break up with, that we've got kids with and everything else as well. It's quite dramatic what we do. And that's a shame, really, because actually we have got this incredible history with somebody else. So I really take your point about time. If you're a few months in and it's already causing you such heartache, is that because of your expectations? Is that because we buy into the fairy tale or anything else as well? Or is it actually, this is really hard work? And if it's already hard work, it's probably only going to get worse.
And something to add to that is it's very difficult to be honest with yourself. The number of lies we tell ourselves is just...
We lie to ourselves or others 7 times a day on average.
So if you're going to do that reflection, make sure you're honest with yourself, otherwise you're going to get know it. It's a tough one to do.
It's not a very popular thing to say, but when I meet someone, I'm often asked, why are you single? I said this earlier. And why are you single?
Did you see Robin boots?
I don't know, because I'm full of shit and I'm clearly a bad person. No, absolutely not. None of those are true. I'm an amazing human being. Thank you very much. I really like myself. I'm sexy as fuck. I'm funny. I'm witty. I'm loyal. I'm kind. I'm generous.
You hold yourself to a high standard.
I hold myself to a high, and I want a connection with people. But I also think I'm a pain in the arse at times. I always think I'm right. There's lots of negatives. So I'm really aware of who I am. Thank you very much. But I'd rather be alone than I'm happily with someone else. Yeah. We always think that single people are at the bottom of the staircase. No, they're not. People, if we often look up and we see couples, all polyamorous, like polycules, and we go, oh, that's what I want. That's ideal. Do you know how many of those are actually the bottom of the staircase because they're shit? Yeah. They're toxic, nasty relationships that don't work. Single people are somewhere in the middle. We're fine, thanks. I'm okay. You've got to add to my life. One of my favourite questions is, what's in it for me? But I ask that because I'm not a selfish cunt. I'm kind. I'm generous. I will buy. I will do. I will help. I will add. I want you to do the same. Whether it's poly, whether it's monogamy, anything else as well. And if it's already really hard work, you and I are quite alike in some ways around this whole rescuing shit that we've got to be very careful of. I'm probably much more aware of my rescuing, although I would argue that most therapists are wounded healers. It's a book. It's a good book.
Did you write it?
No. Most nurses, most doctors, fire, police, you name it. Quite.
I think I'm quite aware, but also far too stubborn.
At whose cost?
Your awareness of it.
Yeah. And that's a good start. And then I'm going to add at what cost and whose cost. Because if you cut your nose to spite your face, you don't smell life very well. You can't smell it's hard. You won't smell the roses. It makes it tough. You were going to say.
I just think it's worthwhile considering and chatting with her to see what kind of category of engaging with the polyamory that she wants. Does she want to be okay with your polyamory, or is she somebody that like actually in 5 years' time she wants to be in like a white wedding with a monogamous partner and having kids?
White picket fence and a
Yeah,
dog.
if that's what her dream is, then it's better to let her go. Like that's, she needs to
absolutely.
achieve that. But if she's like, well, maybe I would be okay with your polyamory, or maybe there would be something in it for me as well, then you could talk about things like, reading Sex at Dawn, which talks about like an evolutionary basis for non-monogamy, or there's lots of other releases as well, but just kind of what is her goals and what category of readiness is she in? Do they align, or are they actually connected with it?
It started off a lot more about, it possibly working, about it being, there could be some overlap as well. With, especially with bisexuality, exploring that, and that being something that I can't provide. I'm not 100% masculine, but that's my body, and that's what I'm happy with. I can't physically provide this other part of the body that you're attracted to. So my experience is I want you to encourage that. I don't know, we were going down the avenue of encouraging that, because there are, I think that there's benefits for them to gain out of it, and I think that we started off when we started to get more involved with that being the case, of being like, okay, there could be a thing, and then I think some very stressful things happened in life and closed them up a lot, and the streets got driven a lot harder, so massively struggling with jealousy.
Stress, like alcohol, also shows us who we are. It takes us back to our survival protective mechanisms and instincts. And although we might be open-minded, what's going to happen if we're stressful? I would add to what you said, which is really helpful, thank you as well. And I would add also, how much work do you want to do? Because is it my job to educate everybody about misogyny? Is it my job, I'm going to talk as a woman for a second, who sees myself as a woman and who assists, that's my identity. I would say I'm demisexual. I've been a queer woman all of my life, on and off. I was on those original Pride marches. They were not drugs and glitter. They were really fucking awful. They were stones and violence, and they were horrific. They were not nice. It was a very different time, but not that that means anything. But how much work are you willing to do for what you're putting in as well? We can give someone a book, we can ask them what they want, but if it's you doing all the work and they're not willing to meet you anywhere, how much work are you willing to do? I'm also a Jewish woman. Am I practicing? No, would Hitler kill me tomorrow? Really, really would. You know, and I've had that hatred in my life. I've had those kids. I've had those human beings saying terrible things to me, and lived through that as well. Like we say, it's not my job to educate somebody else. If you're that fucking ignorant, like I will sit down and have a conversation with you because I'm always willing to, but only up to a point. I don't care enough about you. I'm sorry, I'm not going to put that investment in. When I care about people, I will put an investment in hugely. It's someone else's job to educate themselves. It's really important that we help and we listen, especially if we're into a relationship. You have started a relationship. It's just how much work over time, especially when you've got a lot more years.
Well, for me, there's a couple of interesting problems. First of all, I mean, the entanglements are always the challenge.
Yeah.
You know, if it's easy just to walk away, then probably that's, you know, possibly the answer. I'm coming from it from a very, very, very different perspective. I mean, to over-intellectualizing it, which is in itself the kind of the interesting part of the journey, ironically. But my hypothesis goes along the lines that you start, and this is a monogamy. I mean, I love that you. First of all, I love your. Unreservedly give your opinion. I love that so much. I want more of it myself. But you start as a myth, because I think I was monogamous. I don't know what I am now. I don't like the term polyamory. I don't understand
We
it.
all grow and change, you know. In life, we're not one thing. We're like tree rings. We have genetics. We have epigenetics. We have in utero experience. We have the birth. We have culture with a small c and a larger c, and we grow and we change. And those things aren't gone. They're not linear. They're not left behind. We're not defined by who we were. We have to learn to be defined by who we are and who we could be and who we want to be.
When you say, so one of the things I'm told a lot is that you can't change somebody, you know, you shouldn't. So I shouldn't be trying to change my wife to make her think how I think. The misconceptions, I'm not trying to make her think how I think. I'm trying to encourage her to explore and go on a journey of self to find out, is there something that's better? I genuinely believe that there's no right person out there. For sure, there are some people who end up with their perfect solution or a solution that's good enough, whatever that means. But my experience so far is every time the grass is never greener.
Oh no,
there's
Jesus,
always,
it's still full of dog shit and issues, trust me.
so as soon as you start on with the assumption that there is no perfect solution, looking for your monogamous relationship is never, I mean, it might be an acceptable solution, but it's not the best solution. So I'm really trying to go through it right now and understand, well, if monogamy or my chosen partner, who, frankly, I've been 20 years, so something must be right, although I don't know what the hell it is, right? Because, no, we share nothing, but it's like family, I guess.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly over my monogamy is never the best. Yes, it is if you're monogamous. Who's to say we are absolute? We've got to be careful because there are evolutionary, there are social, there are conditional, there are environmental theories about polyamory and about monogamy, but no one's proven it 100% in any way, shape, or form to make it absolute. What I want to do is become educated and read everything and understand as much as I can. But you're the only expert in you. The problem we get that happens is also in what you said, again, picking on you slightly, is that you said, no, but I want her to be, almost you're saying is I want her to be more open-minded to understand, but that's your want. What if she doesn't want it?
But it's ignorance, so that's a really interesting question.
It is ignorance,
That's what I'm
potentially.
struggling with at the moment, is I don't believe it's my right to expect her to want a solution, because I don't even know what the solution is, but assume I had a solution.
But you do have a should for her. She should listen. She should be able. This is the problem that we have as human beings. People should.
So
actually,
should we not be telling our kids to go to school?
Absolutely. But that's a different relationship. I'm the parent.
We're not too old to learn.
I learn every day. I learn here. I agree with you. But what we've got to be careful about is when we're with a partner and we're saying, but you should listen to this. This is the right way to do it. That's where it comes from. This is a better way.
I said, testing your expectations and challenging yourself to find out, reinforcing your truth or giving you something else to look is a very healthy thing. People who do not have a desire to educate themselves, who are stubborn and unwilling, one way or the other, that is all I think.
I so agree with you, and I really want you to hear this as non-combative because I hear you and I really get that I think what you're missing slightly is, and what we've got to be careful of is here, that when we say that this is we're implying that it's a more open-minded, we're implying that it's slightly better, we're implying that, hey, I've really educated myself. Like, look, smoking is the best example of this. Anyone here an ex-smoker?
Yeah.
How many of you are fucking educators for people who don't smoke? Few of you. Right, so this is the thing, because, look, I've had cancer. I met this guy, actually, it was interesting because we had a date, and we had a couple of dates, and he came over, and then, you know, we went in for a snog, and I went, do you smoke? He went, yeah. And I went, you didn't tell me. I don't want to be with a smoker. I've had cancer. I've lost like 35 pounds recently. I'm losing a lot of weight. That's really important to me. I don't fucking want cancer in my life. My sister's in palliative care. She has been for 20 years. But, you know, she's had secondaries. My mum just died of cancer. My dad has prostate cancer. We're not 1 in 2. We're 4 out of fucking 4 in my family. And it's shit. I don't want it. So I don't want smoke in my life. That's a personal choice. It's a boundary. It's not preference. It's a boundary. And what's interesting is he said, yeah, but I don't smoke on weekends. It's a fucking Monday though, mate, and you're here. But it's interesting. So, like, where do we go with this? Because actually, it was a boundary to me. And he said, well, I'd still really like to see you. I could stop smoking for you. I'm like, you're not going to stop smoking for me. And actually, when we do something for somebody else, we hold it against them. In 5 years and 6 years and 7 years, they're the people that come into my therapy room. It's just a slight in what you're saying of, I wish she would be more open-minded or have this, because this is you are enlightened, you found this. And then when we feel some form of enlightenment, we want the other person to feel it, but it's our want. I want her to learn this. What if she doesn't want to? What if she doesn't want
I
to?
was just going to say, can I just say, like, does she want to explore? Because if she doesn't, you say, oh, well, you should and try and encourage it, you're just forcing the issue.
You've hit the nail on the head. So when I said at the beginning that if I got to do it all again,
Yeah.
I would do it different. Not because I want a kinky or vanilla or a poly or whatever. What I now realize that what I should have been looking for, and I was too young and too inexperienced and too ignorant and too ill-educated in myself. Right, I'm 50, whatever years old. I've only just started learning, actually, to open my heart. It's frightening. It's like, now I'm here. I don't want to do my journey differently. I just want to start it with the wisdom that says that the most important asset you have, the person on the other side, is somebody who you can trust, who you can talk with, who isn't obviously threatened and is prepared to challenge their belief system, not to come around your way. I do not expect anybody, but who at least wants to seek truth, whatever that is.
But that's still what you want and what you want from someone else. And it might be that you have to find a different person to have that with.
Yeah.
Saying, for who do you going to talk?
So connecting kind of this topic with what you were saying before. So I'm non-monogamous myself. Right now, one of the, I want to say rules, but kind of rules, when I mean with new people, is that I'm really careful if that person was not interested in non-monogamy before knowing me. So if that person discovers non-monogamy because I told them, hey, I live this way and it's cool for me because of whatever, and that's when they become interested in the topic, I'm really careful with establishing a relationship with them. First, because the balance of power is super hard to manage. And second, because I'm not sure, and I cannot really be sure, if they are not monogamous because of me, because they want to
Or
be in a
because they
relationship
are.
with me, or because they actually want that. And I think quite often, even after the first phases of the being in love wears off, that comes without.
Good old being in love chemicals, eh? They're very
one of the
fucking
issues
strong.
that we all have our own idea of what words mean.
Yeah, I talk
Now,
about that.
I relate to what you're saying very much. I was in a 20-year vanilla relationship with someone I'm in love with, very fond with. We have kids, whatever. When I started that relationship, which was over 25 years ago now, I thought I can change. I can change who I am. I can stop being kinky. I can do it. 20 years down the line, eventually I blew it up. It's all my fault. I'm completely responsible, and I had to reclaim myself and my life. Over the time since then, I've had a few dates. I've met people. I've explained I'm kinky like this, and there are people who say, "Oh, I'll try that. Yeah, you can wrap a piece of silk scarf around my hand." No, I want fucking chains. Oh, you're giving it a try. You're either into it or you're not. And if you two, I'm not going to stay with someone just
was amazing.
So someone's idea of monogamy, polyamory, kink, whatever, they're very different. And someone just, I'll give it a try. It's never going to work because this is me to the core.
And I'm just adding that I had a kink relationship with my wife of 30 plus years. Came to an end last March, decided to have enough. But you think you can be the right person for the next number of years, and you do everything you possibly want to do, it can still end. So it's just life, and that's what I've got to know.
Massively into the word custodian instead of forever and everything else. I love this fucking word. Custodian. If we're together, you're my custodian and I'm yours. That means I'm going to do my best, I'm going to care for you, and I'm going to do what's right for you and for me. I'm going to look after you, you're going to look after me. And I really hope that does last for a long time. I really hope that develops. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. Nobody does. We don't know. I know as a custodian, I'm going to do my best to be honest, to be present, to be open and to listen. And I hope, and I'm going to do my best to comprehend. I love the word custodian. I much prefer it in relationships. The same as I don't want to wake up next to somebody to say, I love you, I want you, or I need you. What I want to say is, every morning is, I choose you. I choose us. Today, I choose you and I choose us. It's an active daily choice. That's the difference. I want somebody to be my custodian, for me to be theirs, to have my fucking back. You don't get to fuck around. I'm a cut queen and I'm a kinky motherfucker. Right?
So I was only like,
But you don't just get to do that to me if you don't know me. There has to be something in it. There has to be care. And it's that custodianship and that care that really, I harp on about this. I'm so fucking boring. And I really do believe, like, we've had this conversation lots, haven't we? Because Jen and I know each other and have done for a while. Words really matter. When people come into my therapy room, people assume that those words mean the same thing. I do this thing called bronzes, silvers and golds around rules in relationships, which was interesting because actually people think they have rules and then they realise they don't, or they realise that they were wrong. I had a client 17 years together since they were 15 years old, never slept with anybody else. Her golden rule is, we just got to the end of this session and one of the golden rules was, right, you can't fuck anyone else. And I went, oh, that's a big one to leave on. We'll absolutely cover that next time. And we were going to go into it. But in that meantime, he had a stag do. His brother paid somebody to sleep with him, as in sleep, I mean, fuck, there was no snoozing involved. He was very, very, very inebriated. He was raped. If you really want to take it that way, that's how she had no consent to do it. The brother had paid for it. He got a natural physiological response. Wet and hard is not consent. I'm going to go into that in a minute. Well, later. It's not consent. You can be hard, you can be wet. It's not consent. Oh, you love this, don't you? You're really wet. No, I was just thinking about cleaning the cats, but that's a physiological response. And, so we've got to be really careful about this shit. It is not consent. And unfortunately, he became semi-rigid. She jumped on him 4 or 5 times. He runs home in tears. The gold rules changed. It became you can't fuck anyone else consensually. And her gold rule was then, don't ever fucking drink that much and we're never speaking to your brother again. Gold rules change, and he was okay, whatever. But the point is, we've got to be really careful when we prescribe and what we say and what we say rules are for other people in different ways. So when we're talking about, well, I want you to be loyal, I know what the dictionary means in the word loyal. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to you? How are we going to have this conversation? And when we agree on the meaning of the words, then we've got a good conversation going with our partners or partner. What are your rules? I'm working with a couple at the moment and they're poly, so many ways. They're not. And he is with someone else and her thing is, but I didn't consent to this because he's falling in love with her. And she definitely loves him. And she's like, no, but you can't love anyone else. You can't have what we've got. How do we stop that shit? How do we dictate it? You can't. And I'm going to cover this. You can't actually consent to what you think consent is all the time, because it's just bollocks. We've got to be really careful. So agreements and having these conversations. And also, for you consented to something 20, 30, 40 years ago. It doesn't mean we don't change and evolve and grow. And then the issue around consent conversations happens. I'm a big believer we should be having weekly or at least monthly discussions about our relationships. About you get a fucking review at work, don't you? Fairly often. This is your fucking relationship. You should be doing a fucking review. How are we? What are we doing here? Are we still on the same page? I choose you. I choose you today, whatever this means. And yes, have a great time with that person. And if you get your cocks up, have a fucking awesome time. But as a cut queen, see, for me, someone says, "Oh, that's cool. I can do anything I want." I want to know. I want the details. I want the flavour. What did she taste like to you? I want all of it, because that's the sort of shit that makes me come when I'm wanking. So I want to know the details. I want to know more than you think. Like, can I say this? Oh, you can tell me, honey. It's different, but that means a conversation. It's not an assumption.
Got 2 items online.
Oh.
So
So we've got 2 minutes. So I can be fast.
so,
Oh, is your hand up?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go on.
Yes, go on. I'm so sorry. I missed that.
I just want to clarify my understanding is what is coming across to me sounds like if someone is making a change of themselves to specifically just for your enjoyment or pleasure in the relationship or prospective relationship, if you're at the first phase dating or 2 years down the line, it's better for you to walk away rather than go, okay, let's let you continue to try and make this change that may or may not work.
No, not for me. No, because it depends why. So if you are a people pleaser that will just keep accommodating no matter what I ask for, then yes, that will be a problem. It will blow up in our relationship space. If you are a submissive who really likes pleasing and it's part of what you do as a dynamic, then it's fucking awesome and great. We can't keep giving. Our energy isn't infinite. It's finite. If somebody's always adapting to meet you, what we've also got to look at is that a healthy response. So you've probably all heard of fight and flight. So we also know that a lot of people, there's also freeze. You've probably heard of that one. But have you heard of friend, fuck, flow, fop, fawn? No, some of you. Fawn is a really important one, and so is fuck. If we have a trauma response of fawning, if we've learned to be a people pleaser and it's all we do, that isn't coming from a healthy place. What we've got to look at in relationships, I mean, Jesus Christ, don't fucking psych each other out. Christ, be realistic as well. You know, like, where's that coming from? Like, fuck off. We've got to be careful, right? We're all psychologists nowadays, aren't we? We've read Google. Congratulations. So, my ex is a narcissist. Are they? My ex is a psycho. Are they?
All women are crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, oh, no.
Yeah.
Some of us. But that whole thing. Oh, and you know, I'm gaslit all the time. You're not. You're having a disagreement. This is a common argument. So I think we've got to be careful. What we've got to be careful about the origin of something. If the origin is healthy, then that's wonderful. If the origin is unhealthy, then it is dangerous. So the answer isn't a yes or no. It's a little bit more complex. So I'm sorry, I haven't really answered that. I've just muddied the waters. If the person is doing, because I know I'm quite excited about that, and it is quite exciting. We learn and we develop together from a good reason. That's great. And I also really agree with actually, especially on something as big as polyamory or as big as kink, that's not, oh, I've never been fisted before, let's try it. That's a complete lifestyle change. So they're slightly different to me. Sorry if that's muddied a little bit more. What were you going to say? Because I've got to stop. Well, I can go one into the other, but not wet yourself.
There were just a couple of things. One comment online is somebody who did not do that, they made that compromise, stopped being kinky for 16 years. In fact, they were completely lost at the end of it. And then they reversed that and they decided at the start of COVID to take the opportunity to reassess. And then so they've never been happy than ever in, but they did end that relationship. That was one. Looking from online, Chris Lee. And then another one saying, is that everyone, it's a sign that to remember, is that everyone is the baddie in someone's story.
Yes, I really agree with that.
So nobody is innocent in everyone's story, no matter what you think. You'll be the baddie in somebody's story and they'll be the baddie in yours.
Look, as a Jewish woman, I'm not really that Jewish or practicing, but I'm going to claim it for now because it suits. Right, so when we look at good and evil in most religions, good and evil are external to us. There is good and there is bad, there is heaven, there is hell. I'm not religious, I'm not saying there is heaven or hell, right? And there is God and there is the devil. What I love about Judaism is what they say is that good and evil is innate to us. It's within us. And that a lot of people say my relationship is abusive. It's not abusive, it's toxic. and that means both of you have something to do with it. You know, toxicity is very different to abuse, very different, and we tend to call a lot of toxicity abuse when it isn't. Toxicity can be part of abuse. It's different, and we've got to be really careful because you always think you're right or whatever doesn't make you not a bad person. That's just something we all have to accept. For sure, I agree.
Poppy said love.
Oh.
Hi,
Poppy's
Poppy.
my best friend, and she's the singing counselor, and she does the workshops with me on Thursday. And I really love her.
Are we switching conversations next? I'll check.
We are. We're going to go on to consent. So thank you all very much for coming. Happy birthday.